Hello friends, today we are talking columns, and I love columns. Columns are good for so many different things. They work into so many other tricks, and they're really kind of basic at their very core. What is the first thing you learn to do when you pick up a ball and learn to throw it and catch it? This, right? Throw straight up, catch with the same hand, and this is essentially what columns is. That's all it is. You do it with both hands and you have three balls, but really columns comes down to doing this. It's a little bit faster, you kind of move your hand. But you want to start here, and you want to do both hands, and throw up and down, and try and focus on keeping them at the same height, and not moving your hand around too much. You want them to go pretty much straight up and straight down, and it'll take some practice, and you're going to want to keep an eye on them, because I find it actually more difficult with columns to look somewhere else. Like, I feel like I need to focus on the ball that's in the air more, and that might be a shortcoming of me, but I'm going to recommend to you that you sort of focus on that. You don't want to actually watch it all the way into your hand, but you do want to have it in your field of vision. Once you're feeling good about it, grab another ball, and we're going to go into this one, okay? This is a two-hand exercise. It's not quite columns, but start here, because it'll get the feel going for you. This is a pretty common two-ball juggling pattern, okay? You're essentially doing a circle, and the reason people do this a lot of the time is it feels a lot like three-ball juggling, so it's less different from what you're used to, right? I can do this one while looking at you much more easily than I can do this one, which requires a lot more focus. And that's what we're going to go to next, because that's the basis of doing what I'm going to call a separated columns pattern. It's probably not the right name. It's definitely not the right name. We're going to call it separated columns. So you're going to take it, and you're going to do two throws to start with. 1, 2, and then catch. 1, 2, and then catch. And the thing is you want them kind of in two different columns going up and down, up and down. They'll be going in separated patterns. So just go for that. 1, 2. And then try and go up to 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I can count to 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can do 4 too. And then keep going up from there. And then switch to your other hand. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. And start getting a feel for that general pattern, because that's really all separated columns is. We're doing separated columns again. I just want to remind you, because you're going to have people be like, well, why aren't you doing this columns trick? And the reason for that, for me at least, is that there's more to focus on. When you're doing a separated pattern, you've only got about 1.5-ish balls in the air at a time. You're going to throw one and immediately catch. So you're really only having to focus on one plus a little bit, as opposed to this, where you've got 2 balls in the air every other throw. And I find that to be a lot more difficult. So let's go straight into the separated columns. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can start with any ball that feels comfortable. You could start with an outside one and go all the way over the left. Or you can start on the left side, go all the way over to the right. Or you can start with the middle one and go 1, 2, 3, 4. Whatever's feeling good for you. It really doesn't matter, because eventually you're going for this, right? A repeated pattern. And again, you're going to just work your way up to this. Do 3 passes, 4 passes, 5 passes, and just start getting in there and going as long as possible until you get this nice and secure. Again, you want to make sure that the balls are going straight up and down, and you want to alternate which hand is catching the middle one. And you'll get this pattern. Okay, separated columns. And then you can move into one that's more classic columns and start practicing this if you'd like. Or you can do it even like this, where you've got the single throw on the outside. Or if you're more comfortable, you can do the single throw on the outside on the other side. Or you can start playing with variations like this, which is almost like tennis, but for columns, where you have a ball going over the top. And again, this is all just sort of practice. There's not really a good exercise. Like, you could take one ball for that trick and just practice throwing over, but now you're essentially doing a reverse cascade throw, which you could just practice by doing reverse cascade too. So I don't think you really need to go there. You need to just sort of dive in and understand you've got these columns, and you can move the balls around in the columns however you want. You could do something like that. That was kind of a complicated one. Let's look at something a little easier. We'll stick to just throwing over the top, right? You can do a separated column version of this, which has a little bit of a weird feel because you're going to do 3 throws on the side that you pass to. Or you could do like a cross under. Or you could do like something like that. Right? This leads into all sorts of weird variations, and like all of this stuff that I'm showing you now is all columns tricks. So the reason we're starting to learn these separated columns is all of these tricks actually rely on columns, as much as they may not look like it. So you start here, and then you just start playing with variations. And those could be all sorts of different things. Oh, here's a really cool one. You can do this one. Okay, that has a one handoff, but basically you're moving all of the columns over one and then shifting the far out column back underneath to go over to the other side, so you still have your columns here. And here's another interesting thing to think about. Right now we have 3 columns, but what happens if we move out here? Now we're still in 3 columns, but they're in different columns, and you can like shift back, and now you're back in the middle, and you can shift out again, and you get a slightly different pattern, different rhythm, and I'm not quite there yet on this. I'm working on this, but there's these 5 columns actually in front of you, and you can occupy the space with each column, with each ball, in different spaces, and you create all of these sort of weird illusions and things. So just grab them and start practicing these separated columns. Again, start here, and then just play with the variations. I mean, you can do little shifts, you can do big shifts, all sorts of stuff, and as you get deeper into it, you'll find, oh, this pattern works with everything. I can do it out of Mills Mess and like do all of these weird handoff variations, and it's still at the core separated columns. So you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch if you like video games, all sorts of different places, and I hope you'll come see me again soon. Have a good one.